History, our past, our present, and our future. I'm Jeff Clark, the National Treasury Secretary of Eta Sigma Gamma, and will serve as a moderator today for our session. And my co-moderator is Marianne Frankeneck, who will moderate after our videotape is presented. I'd like to start today just to make a couple of points and recognize people who've been involved in this project. Dr. Siebert, Denise Siebert, Mal Goldsmith, and myself have spent some time in the last year or so interviewing a variety of people to collect information about our history. So we'd like to extend a particular thanks to those that were allowed us to interview. Robert Sinovitz, Bill Bach, Wayne Payne, and Molly Wantz were students at the time of the founding of Eta Sigma Gamma. Lauren Bensley, a longtime historian of our organization. Brenda Smith, who wrote a history of our organization up through 1987, I believe it was, and Billy Kennedy, who was the original executive director of our honorary. Interviewing those folks, we gathered nearly 4 hours of videotapes, and promise you're not going to watch all 4 hours today. We've worked very diligently to compress these to about 20 minutes. And to that end, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to David Marini, who helped us with editing and compressing and putting this to digital form. In 1992, Eta Sigma Gamma had their 25th anniversary in an Indianapolis meeting. And at that meeting, I don't remember who it said, it might have been Dr. Evers who said this, but one of our leaders made the point at that anniversary is that each of us stand on the shoulder of giants. That was our theme of our meeting at the 25th anniversary, and I'd like to carry that through, but really to focus more about what our past is, but to look at our past and how it applies to what our future is. So our theme for this year, this anniversary, is really about passing the torch to the next generation of health educators and gammons. And if I might, I'd like to take a few words to say that we're going to see a series of small vignettes and edits of our editing and our interviews in this video, and each segment starts off with a brief header so you can get an idea of what the questions that each individual is attempting to answer for us. So without any further delay, let's see if this will work.
Well, with Dr. Schaller, it didn't take much to get people excited. He was a very convincing person. You could be convinced of something and never really realize that you had been convinced. He was a true health educator. He believed so much in health education in the schools, especially in the schools, and in the workplace. So he just beamed every time he talked about health education, and he enjoyed teaching it. And then the birth of the honorary was just kind of icing on the cake.
I was in physical education. I was in history. Physical education was a major, history was a minor, and science was a minor. And this was in the first semester of 1941 at La Crosse, and that was my setup for what I wanted to do. I liked very much the concept of history because it's something that I enjoy very, very much. And the science was always something I wanted to do. I had 3 possibilities to get a job, either in physical education, in science, or in history. And suddenly, announcement was made with in the university that we were putting in that the university was putting in, I should say college, it wasn't a university, that teacher's college, in fact. They said they had a new subject that was going in called health education, and that was going to start in the second semester of the 1949 school year, which went also into 1950. And we talked about that, and both of us thought that was a good idea.
I would have to say the real key was through a process of self-discovery, and equally being encouraged. And I came to the realization after reflecting on my training at Springfield that there is a reciprocal relationship between health and education, which we all now, I'm sure, promote in our classes. In other words, being health educated requires a certain knowledge of what health is, what it embodies. We often discuss this in terms of the tri-dimensional concept of health, the levels of health, the components of health, the aspects of health. And I thought, well, there were times in my career when I didn't achieve the level I had aspired to, and that was in many cases due to not being health-wise at the highest level, high-level wellness, we used the term then. So in order to take advantage of your education, you have to have a certain level of health. And in order to be healthy, you have to have an education. So there's a reciprocal relationship, and I came to the realization that when I left Springfield, I was going to be a health educator for life, and that was 52 years ago.
It was a very much a family experience to come to Ball State. When you were identified as a new faculty member at Ball State, even before you arrived on campus, your name had been put into nomination for membership into the Catalina Swim Club. And before you really had housing here, you had a real estate agent, Judy Schaller, and I'm sure with Warren's encouragement, wanted you to feel that you were not only a part of the university community, but you were, if you ultimately chose, you would be a part of the Muncie community. So Judy and Warren were interested in you not only as an individual young faculty member, they were interested in you as a person, as a spouse, as a parent, if that were the case, and they would do almost anything to facilitate your immersion into the university and local community. So I think that was unique about Warren.
Warren and I were both from Wisconsin, and even more so, we were in the same metropolitan area. We started talking to each other, and we became extremely good friends for almost everything we did for all 4 years in school, and many, many years after that.
Really began in 1965 when I received my PhD from Ohio State University in health education and school administration. And I was intrigued by the opportunity to join an institution where health education had some autonomy. And health science nationwide, as I view it now, looking back, was really on the move. And as I mentioned, Warren Schaller, Bob Sinowitz were faculty members here, and they had a strong association with other science departments, and that intrigued me.
We're talking about forming this organization even when I was an undergraduate, but when I returned following some public school teaching, they were really serious about starting the organization, and they wanted, particularly the graduate students, to be involved in kind of giving them a more current perspective on campus honoraries. So Frank Ressler, who was a graduate student at the time, Molly Wamps, who had been a graduate student the year before, and myself were invited very early to participate in the formation.
I was an undergraduate physical education major, not real happy with my major, looking for something else. Warren came to Ball State University to set up the health ed program. It was a minor at the time, and I decided to minor in health education, and that was my first encounter with him. Robert and Dr. Bach, I did not meet until I was a grad student and grad assistant, and I worked for all three of the gentlemen. All three of the founders had such a great enthusiasm for health education, and it was really catching. Well, since Zeta Sigma Gamma is a student organization, the founders thought it was important to have student input. So there were several graduate students, none of whom I can remember, who were asked to sit on a committee with them and help them work on the Constitution and bylaws, and that's how I got involved. So another grad student and myself rode in the car with the three doctors, and it was at that point, we're sitting in the back seat, they're talking about forming Eta Sigma Gamma. And then, and as time passed, the organization was established.
And the leadership of those involved and the opportunities that have been provided by the chapters for leadership development. Go way back to the Constitution, Jeff. It actually does state that we not only recognize scholarship, but we also provide opportunities for leadership development. The faculty sponsors here at Ball State University over the years, as I mentioned, some of the retired colleagues, Charles Carroll, Herb Jones, they're actively involved over the years. Current members, obviously yourself, who has been very much involved in your career. Jim McKenzie, the three of us could be mentioned as being National Secretary Treasurers. The leadership provided by all of these individuals have really contributed most to the success of the honorary.
I think it was a time that was right. If the timing hadn't been right, it could have sagged a little bit, but it exploded. Teachers going into it, but the physicians were also. I mean, they became teachers. They began techniques in their treating of people and everything with the total person, and here's what you can learn and all that kind of thing. There was a lot of teaching going on with that, and the health education field was exactly perfect for that time.
What has contributed to the success of the organization is success. Success breeds success. Now, what makes success happen? And I think that's really what your question is. And I think it's 3 or 4 things. I think we've had tremendous leadership out of the national office. In the early years, it was Warren Schaller. When I say early years, the first 20 years, that was Warren Schaller, who believed in the organization, who had a vision, who always wanted to go one step further in terms of providing a good professional experience outside of the classroom for students. I think that we have also had great leadership from our executive committee, board of directors over the years, individuals who, the founders, for instance, that got the whole thing going. And in serving on the National Board of Directors, I can't ever remember anyone ever saying, if we don't do this, we're going to fail, or if we do this, we're going to fail. It was never anything negative. It was always something positive, moving forward. So I think the leadership from Warren Schaller, I think the leadership also from the National Executive Committee or Board, but also I think at the chapter level. I think we've had chapters that have been outstanding chapters, year after year after year after year. Why have they been successful year after year? It can be really summed up in 3 things. 1, you have a chapter advisor at that particular university or college who believes in Eta Sigma Gamma, who believes in the students, and serves as an excellent mentor for the students. Secondly, you have a department and a department chairman who is supportive of Eta Sigma Gamma. And thirdly, what you have are student leaders. They may not be leaders, they may not know that they're leaders, but through the work and the help of the chapter sponsor, those individuals learn that they have talents that they never knew about.
I would say there's a concept of being concerned about other people. And I think that Eta Sigma Gamma gave some impact on rolling up the sleeves and get the job done to give opportunities to other people.
I really think what we have done as a National Honor Society is we've provided individuals, young people, the opportunity to be professionals before they really are professionals.
You know, I'm certainly in the publications, because I think when I was doing the dissertation, the monograph series had just maybe had 2 or 3 issues, and that has continued in the original Gammon, which is now the Health Educator. That has improved. I think in terms of publications, I see a lot stronger publications rather than just like a newsletter that it originally started with. I've really seen a lot more visibility of Eta Sigma Gamma. I think that they just had begun maybe doing a few sessions. I'm glad to see that they do sessions on a regular basis at AHI and SOFI and maybe APHA. I'm not sure about APHA, but I like the fact that they're reaching the members through the different professional organizations. And I think that I would emphasize today that needs to be our focus, that we stay unique for health educators.
More than what they ever dreamed. I think that they got together and they said, you know, here's an opportunity to do what other academic areas are doing, and that's to establish a professional honorary with the opportunity to give students the chance to get out in the real world before they are out in the real world, to help them develop their leadership skills, to make themselves proud of themselves, proud of their chapter, and as a result, that has happened, but it's gone beyond that.
Well, I think it's important that it be sustainable. I certainly hope it continues to be recognized as both an undergraduate honorary, because certainly those are important, but also a place for professionals in the community and probably relatively close at hand, and maybe even former majors in an academic department to be brought together with a relatively common sense of purpose.
Every state in the United States that had universities at least would have one chapter, that we would have international chapters.
Obviously, we'd like to see continued growth of the honorary. What we have here, affiliation with other honoraries. There is a National Association of Honor Societies that Eta Sigma Gamma can play a role in. Early documents that we prepared called for an honorary song.
But I think that my dream for the next 40 years would be a lot of more of the same.
Do an internship. Get experience. Do 2 internships. Volunteer. They're very worthy activities to do while you're in undergraduate school, because you hopefully have the time to do it. It gives you experience. It makes you more marketable.
Take advantage of every opportunity to know the faculty of the department in which you are studying health education.
I would like to say, you know, you're in a good organization. You really are. Be proud of what we are, what we have been, and where we're going. And take pride in your own chapter. Take pride in yourself. And furthermore, never forget, if you're a Gamma, you're a professional. And if you're a professional, there's certain standards that you have to live by. And those are easy to live by. And you'll enjoy it. And I'll say, don't just enjoy it, love it. Because it's a lot of fun, and you're going to get an awful lot out of it in the long run. I think that I like to think that I help individuals grow professionally. But let me say the other side of it. They have helped me grow professionally. And I just want to thank all of the gamins that I came in contact with for helping me become more of what I wanted to be. And I don't mean to be emotional about this. I guess I really believe what I'm saying. But that's what I want to say.
Stronger now than it ever has been, and I know that he would be very, very pleased.
Thank you. And again, a special recognition for Dr. Marini for all of his hard work. I'll turn the rest of the program over to Dr. Frank.
Well, we had Kleenex at our table, and we used it. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Dave. And this project has been amazing. It's been fun to watch it develop. We have a couple speakers that would like to talk to you about their experience with Eta Sigma Gamma from the early years. The first one's going to be Brenda Smith, Dr. Brenda Smith. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Education and her Master of Arts in Education degrees in Health Education at Austin Peay State University in Tennessee, in Clarksville, Tennessee. In 1987, she earned her doctorate in health education from Ohio State University, where she wrote her dissertation in The History, Development, and Contributions of Eta Sigma Gamma, 1967 to 1982. She's currently an associate professor of health education at the University of Texas in El Paso. So, Dr. Smith, please come on and talk to us about Eta.
I can't think without a pencil in my hand. I did find that to be very emotional, and having experience with Dr. Schaller and interviewing them for the dissertation, and it was just it's an honor for me to be here because I think they had a lot of influence on my life and what I have done since then. What I did, and I know there's a little confusion here too, I collected my data by 82. But I didn't publish it until 87. So it took a while for me to get it all together. So, most of the data that I have was collected in 82. Let's see. What I did is I went back and looked at the purposes and the ideals and the objectives that were identified by the founders in 1967 and compared them to what they were today. So I just clicked this forward. There's just a little bit of difference between 1967 and the mission in 2007. There's the promotion of the discipline by elevating the standards of professionally prepared men and women in health education. And This is a little bit different than 1967, but I think the organization has always emphasized professional preparation of undergraduate students and wanting to prepare students to be inducted into the field to be professionals. So it really hasn't changed that much since their original vision. So I think that that has withstood the test of time, that we still have that as our principle. I'm not sure where it is. I also looked at the terminology that was used at that time. In 1982, it was called the Professional Health Science Honorary, and today it's the National Professional Health Education Honorary. In 1982, I know, and I had discussions with Dr. Schaller and Dr. Sinowitz regarding this, they were located, or their program was located in the College of Sciences. So they really wanted to call it the Health Science Honorary because of that location. But I know Dr. Schaller also thought that our discipline was health science and our practice was health education. So that's kind of the philosophical principle behind that. But I think it changed because they saw that we had a better identity with the people in the field if we used the term education. We were more visible. And that's actually what we are health educators. Then the objectives in 1982, and I won't read all of these, but stimulating scientific research, facilitating communication and discussion, motivating service and academic achievement, recognizing service and academic achievement, developing methods, materials, and programs, and raising professional standards are pretty similar to what we have today. I think when I was working on the dissertation that I emphasized how they viewed the organization as an honorary because we have a GPA requirement and we also recognize scholarship, and that it was also a professional organization because we wanted people to remain in the organization when they graduated, when they were truly professionals in the field, and we were training students to become professionals. So we still have pretty much the same goals that were at one time the objectives, and I think maybe a couple more that advocacy has been added since that time, and promoting networking activities among health educators and related professionals. I don't have the exact notes on that, but I think in in my data that I collected in 1982, the members identified professional contacts as their top contribution of Eta Sigma Gamma. And that was the survey that I did with the members. And so I think they've changed that goal a little bit, and it's very consistent with what we're actually doing. In 1982, we had 7, and I think I forgot the executive director here. I think we had 7 people on the board of directors. And now in 2007, what is that, 7? We have 12, and I think these are some really major changes. We have the director of chapter development, which I think we identified with in the past that we have trouble keeping those chapters active, and we have trouble keeping the members involved once they graduate. And we've also added a student-at-large member to the National Board of Directors, which I think is tremendous as far as getting student input on that board. And then I think we split the editors for the health educator and the monograph series that both are on the board, and then we have the executive director. And I think, again, very significant, and I don't remember exactly when it was. Rick, where are you when you were voted the first national elected president? 89. I thought it was right after that, 1987 on that celebration. But that was significant, and that had been a suggestion from the research from members and from leaders that I also surveyed, 21 leaders in the field from professional organizations, that it was important to move to the next step to have an elected officers and an elected president. And then our publications, we had the Eta Sigma Gamma before 1983, the National Directories of College and University Health Educators, the Selected Sources of Instructional Materials, Research Council Scientific Forum abstracts, the monograph series, and of course the officers' handbooks and initiation manual and rituals. And then now we had, since that time, the Eta Sigma Gamma becoming the health educator, or the Journal of Eta Sigma Gamma. The monograph series becomes the health education monograph series. And then we also have the student health education monograph series. And then I was very pleased to see that on the website that we have the Eta Sigma Gamma Vision, which is a newsletter, and was very helpful for me in preparing for this presentation. And I think I was telling Dr. Clark before the presentation that from 82 till now, I think in the whole field of health education, the most significant change is the technology. And how much easier it was for me to go to that website and review what has happened to Eta Sigma Gamma than me going to that office at that time in a little dusty room and going through pages and pages of folders and papers that really weren't very organized very well. But now everything's all organized and we can get to it. Then our organization being a recognition society also, that we have a Distinguished Service Award. The Writer Award, I'm not really sure what's happened about that. It had been established just before 1982. I thought after 82 there might have been a couple of people who received the Writer Award, but I could not find any records of that on the internet, so we might want to check into that. And of course then we have the National John P. McGovern MD Scholarship Award, and I was very fortunate in meeting Dr. McGovern when I was doing this research, and what a wonderful, proud supporter he was of this organization. The national awards which recognize organization and individuals, for non-members, there really haven't been any changes. The Honor Award, which was at one time the highest award, well, it is the highest that we give to non-members, and then honorary membership, and I didn't see for non-members any other awards. And then these same awards are available at the chapter level, and sometimes I don't think we realize this, or we don't grant these enough. I think we do pretty good, at my experience with chapters, of doing this Distinguished Service Award for our members and recognizing the Gammon of the Year and maybe the Scholarship Key, but I don't think that in our own that we really recognize people out in the community or bestow honorary membership for someone who may not have joined and is really a dedicated health professional out in the community. But since then, I was proud to see the honorary cords for the pre-service educators. I think a number of years we'd see people graduating with honor cords, and we didn't have our own, and it was really delightful for me when I first saw our students wearing the honorary cords. National activities, I think that we've brought great visibility to the organization by partnering this year with Sophie, by our co-sponsor of the National Conference for Institutions Preparing Health Educators back when Dr. Charlotte was living, and we have programs at IHE. Let me see. Okay. And of course that our membership on the Coalition of National Health Education Organizations now brings great visibility to us. And chapter activities in 83, after I finished collecting my data, I broke those down into pretty much social, service, teaching, research, educational, and fundraising. And we had project grants. And I just went back and looked, and in 1979, we had 2 project grants. We had 4 in 81 and 8 in 82. But now we've got all of these additional awards that we can recognize chapters for: the chapter activity of the year, the chapter excellence, the chapter achievement, and chapter recognition. So I think that shows a great deal of improvement in getting participation and recognition for chapters. think I got ahead of myself. Let me go back to this one, right? In 1982, when I surveyed the national leaders, 80% of them were aware of national activities. 80% of them were aware of our co-sponsorship. Of the, I think I must have changed this. Go back one. Yeah, 80% were aware of our co-sponsorship of the National Conference for Institutions Preparing Health Educators, and we usually call that the Birmingham Conference too, because that was held in Birmingham, Alabama. But I thought that was really great that the national leaders were aware of our sponsorship of that. However, only about 60% of them were aware of the Council of Delegates at the annual meeting. So I think that's something else that we could look at is visibility among those national leaders. Okay, then I'm getting over here to the end now. In chapter growth, I think I counted about 59 chapters that had been installed by 1983, and then 1967 through 2007, just on the list on the web, that there were 120 chapters that I counted, and approximately 70 of them are active. So again, I think that crucial person for keeping that chapter active is the sponsor. And I think if you don't have a good, strong role model sponsor, then it's hard to keep the chapter active. So I guess in summary, I think that our mission, our purposes, objectives has withstood the test of time. I think Dr. Schaller, Dr. Bach, Dr. Sinowitz were very visionary to know what we needed in an organization, and we had good, strong leadership. And the leadership has transitioned from a few board members to an elected board of directors comprised of professors and students. There are a greater number of publications and opportunities for publishing. There are increased opportunities to recognize students and professional achievements, as evidenced by the increased number of chapter and national awards. And Eta Sigma Gamma has greater national visibility with programs at ASHA, SOFI, AHI, and membership in the Coalition of National Health Education Organizations. Eta Sigma Gamma has greater opportunities for student participation collegiately and nationally. Whoops. I'm technology challenged. How do I do that? This is the very first. Yeah, to the last one. Thank you. I'm afraid to touch it again. I'm sorry, I've just got one thing here that... I can't read the bottom one. I did? Okay. All right, that's it. That's just the wrap up. And I said, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and am just pleased with the record of Eta Sigma Gamma over the last 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith, for your initial historical perspective and for an update on the comparison and current practices of Eta Sigma Gamma. At this time, our second speaker is Dr. Richard Eberst. Dr. Eberst earned his bachelor's degree in biology from Park University, a master's degree in physiology and health science from Ball State University, and a doctorate in health education from the University of Maryland. He is currently the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. Dr. Ebers was Eta Sigma Gamma's third national president from 1989 to 1992 in the distinction of being the first elected national president. Dr. Ebers has been the recipient of many awards, including the 1994 Eta Sigma Gamma Distinguished Service Award. Dr. Ebers.
Hi. I didn't prepare anything for today because I thought this would be stimulating to me, and it certainly has been. I'd just like to take you on a little journey that I went on, and I'd just like to tell you the most important thing right now is that Eta Sigma Gamma works best at the local chapter. Everything that you are doing right now at your local chapter is what Eta Sigma Gamma is all about. I've been the president of this organization. I founded 3 different chapters. I've been a representative of the chapter at large. I've been a member of the chapter at large, and I think I still am. But the most important thing that ever happened to me and happened in my experience was my connection as a faculty advisor with my students at the local campuses that I've been at. The second greatest thing is this that goes on right now here today. When I get to meet all these great, wonderful people that are going to be standing on our shoulders. And let me just say that's the most important thing I'll say today. So when you go home, don't forget that what you're doing there is the most important thing that Eta Sigma Gamma has ever done. A little story about me and how I got involved in all this. It's funny that I'm a provost of a medical school now because I quit medical school 13 times. And I was down at Indiana University, and I would come home on the weekends because I lived in Indiana, and I said, I don't think that's for me. Well, I had a penis, okay? My brother, who also had a penis, wanted to be a CPA, and my sister was a girl, and women didn't go to medical school at the time, and so I was a very obedient, middle child. My dad dropped out of medical school during the Depression. My mom was a nurse, and so it was left to me to hold the family tradition that they never got to have if someone's going to go to medical school. So I went to medical school, and as I said, I quit 13 times. Every time I would come home on the weekends, I'd say, this is not for me. I'm really, what I found out, I'm interested in health and not disease. And it happened at that time at Indiana University that your first year of medical school was spent at a local hospital or campus someplace in the greater state of Indiana because we didn't have enough internships and residencies. So people would go to medical school down at Indianapolis and they'd leave the state for internships and residencies, and we lost them because once they moved to Ohio or Kentucky or whatever, that's where they stayed. So as I finally quit, of course, when I went home, the big argument was, well, you have a choice, Rick. You can go back to medical school or you can go to Vietnam and get killed. Now, I'm not stupid. But as you can see, I didn't get killed, and I decided that I was really interested in health. And it just happened that the Department of Medical Education was located in the Department of Physiology and Health Sciences at beautiful Ball State University. And I was kind of back and forth because we were Ball Memorial Hospital was on one side of the street, and the new building that we just moved into, Jordan Hall, was on the other side of the street. In fact, I helped carry a lot of stuff over there when we moved into Jordan Hall. And who did I run into except Warren Schaller, right? And he was standing right next to the sign at the bottom of the old building that said Physiology and Health Science Department. And I said, I really don't think this medical school thing is for me. He says, do I have something for you? And so he took me upstairs and we talked about what my aspirations were, what my interests really were, and this kind of new idea of what he called health science. And I said, yeah, I'm really interested in health, science, health, yeah, that's cool. And, it's a chance to say, hey, I never knew the word prevention at the time, but it was something you could do to help people be healthier. And I said, I worked in the hospital, I worked in the ED department. In case you don't know, that's the emergency department. It's not a room, it's a department. And I worked in radiology, and I worked in physical therapy during summer breaks and over Christmas vacations. And I said, there's got to be something better than just waiting until everyone gets sick. You know, there's got to be some upstream thinking somewhere that we're getting to people before they get sick. And this is what that presented to me, this upstream thinking. And so Warren was really great to me. He got me involved with the department. He found me an assistantship, which I still don't particularly like today because we were doing cancer research, and about every day I was killing about 500 white mice. And I used to be pretty good at it. Snap your finger. You don't want to hear that. But I really learned a whole lot about what I was really interested in, and after I was finishing the program, I got this letter in the mail that said, congratulations, you have been elected into the Honor Society of Eta Sigma Gamma, and Eta Sigma Gamma stands for Health Science. Okay? And so I thought, well, God, you know, an honor student. I'm not known for that in my family, you know. But I thought it was pretty cool, so I went over to the student union and was inducted into Eta Sigma Gamma, which I just happened to look at my certificate yesterday. Well, excuse me, 2 days ago. It still has a rain mark on it because it was raining that night when I carried it home. It got wet. And the pin that I'm wearing right now is the pin that Warren pinned on me in 1970. And it's not as good as his pin. He's got a better pin than I do. But this pin means everything to me, and I brought it out of retirement so I could wear it for this special occasion. So anyway, I said, well, you know, this is kind of cool. What do you do when you got a master's degree in physiology and health science? Where the hell do you go? And how do I pay my car payment or whatever with this? And he says, well, you know, you've been teaching around here. Maybe you want to pursue a career in higher education. I said, wait a minute, okay? You don't think that I'm a guy that could be a college professor, do you? And he says, sure you can. Sure, okay? You'll be good at it. In fact, I have a program for you. And so he got me in his office, and he got on the phone with Herb Jones. And Herb had been at Ball State for a while and then moved to the University of Maryland. And I says, Herb, I got a doctoral student for you. Now, this is August of 1970, and in 3 weeks, the University of Maryland is starting the new fall quarter or semester. And I said, no, I can't do this in 3 weeks, you know. But Warren said, yes, you can do it. So I did it. And he got me in, and I drove out to the University of Maryland in a 1965 Pontiac Grand Prix. Which, I'm a car guy, so, you know, I love cars. And so I went out there, didn't know anybody, except I knew there was a guy named Herb Jones, and I didn't have any place to live. I stayed at the Holiday Inn. I had 3 nights that I could afford at the Holiday Inn. And I went to the University of Maryland, and I met Herb Jones, and in 48 hours, I had a fellowship. Well, I started with an assistantship and got a fellowship. Frank Ressler, who was a student at Ball State the year before me, was doing his doctorate out there, and we got together, and he found me a place to live. Frank was a vegetarian, and I remember he invited me over to his house for lunch, and we had cottage cheese souffle. I mean, that's what I remember. I'm from Indiana, man. You know, where's the meat and potatoes? So anyway, I started and did my doctorate at the University of Maryland, and I was really pleased. I got a great experience there. I worked with Warren Johnson. I'd read a lot of his work and books before I went there. And I got involved in this thing called sexuality education, and we formed a new organization. It was called the Forum of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, which is ASEC, the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. I got to work with Dan Levitin, who is like the father of death education, and we formed another group called ADEC, the Association of Death Education and Counseling. So I was really interested in doing a lot of stuff, and it was really cool that I got to do a lot of things. I eventually got a job at Adelphi University in Garden City, New York, as one of my first postgraduate kinds of careers. And somebody said there was money to go to a national conference for faculty. I said, somebody would pay me to go to a national conference and put me up at a hotel so I could go and learn? I never heard of such a thing. But they had money, so I said, oh, sure. So what I'll do is I'll go down to the American School Health Association. It was in New Orleans that year, or New Orleans, if you wish. And so I go down there, and I'm really studious. This is my first national conference, and I'm nervous. And so I get up early in the morning, and I go for a long walk up and down the streets. I'm trying to do my wellness stuff. And I go to my first meeting, which starts at 7:15, and I go in the room, and there's absolutely nobody there. Nobody. And I pull out my trusty little program, and I'm a day early. I'm so stupid I couldn't read the calendar. I was so excited that I didn't know it started the next day. So feeling stupid and having my tail tucked between my legs and hoping nobody saw me, I went downstairs to the counter at the little small restaurant there to, sit by yourself at the counter and having some breakfast. And who sits down next to me? Who sits down next to me? Warren Schaller, okay? And Warren says, hey, Rick, how you doing? What's up? Well, I haven't seen you for 4 or 5 years. What are you up to? And I said, tell me what I'm doing. I'm at Delphi University. I'm an assistant professor. I'm teaching all these courses, and I got this research going on. And, it's really kind of fun. And somebody paid me to come to this conference. It's kind of cool. And he said, well, the conference doesn't start till tomorrow. And I said, I know. I just figured that out. I was up in a room, and nobody was there. So I came down here, and you know what he did? He said, I'll tell you what. You were on me all day. I said, what? He said, you're with me all day. I said, what does that mean? How much work do I have to do? And he says, no, he was then the president-elect of the American School Health Association, and the next thing I knew after breakfast, I'm sitting in the executive committee meeting of the American School Health Association. I went with Warren every day to that entire conference, through everything that he did. He introduced me to everybody. And I ended up president of that lovely association. So when I say that you're standing on the shoulders of others, we are standing on the shoulders of others. Everything that we've done in our lives, whether it's with your parents or with your mentors or with your faculty members or your teachers or your loved ones or your kids, you're standing somewhere on the shoulders of others. And we owe them to stand tall and to be professional and to keep going on with what we're doing. Anyway, I really feel like the best thing that's happened to me is being a member of Eta Sigma Gamma. I've had fortunate to receive a lot of good things in my life. I have a great family. I have 2 wonderful kids. But my wife and my wife's a hospital president, by the way. She's just built a brand new hospital. And when people ask me what I do, I says my job is to put her out of business. And then I say, well, then, she says she gets all my mistakes. And I said, well, I teach courses in death and dying, so I get all of your mistakes. And we call that a family continuum of care. All I'd like to say to you is that the organization has been able to last because of the people that are in this room, just like you, that sat in those chairs. The people like you that sat in those chairs. I became a member of Eta Sigma Gamma in 1970. I was president in 1989. Okay? I remember running twice for president. You get in there, and if you cut me, I bleed green. Okay, I'm a Gamma through and through. Okay, and I wanted Eta Sigma Gamma to go ahead and move ahead. And I know one of the things I talked to Warren about was we were really afraid that when we started electing people from the general membership that the organization might die. He was right in some respects, but he was wrong in other respects. Because you are the people that can make this organization continue on. Somewhere sitting out there is our next president. I was elected president, I ran again, and I got defeated. I ran against Steve Dorman, and he beat me. Now, I ran against Bob Sinovitz, and I was a little old associate professor running against this giant founder. In fact, somebody used to refer to me as the giant killer because I beat the founder for a national election. And just to make sure I didn't feel too bad, Steve came along and beat me. So, he put me in my place. But the greatest thing that I got to do, that I remember doing, was for Kelly McCormick Brown. One of my first years as president, I gave her an award for an outstanding Gamma of the Year at her chapter. She then went on to get a master's degree, and I gave her an award as an outstanding master's level paper. A couple years later, we gave an award for an outstanding doctoral dissertation. And right after Steve Dorman, she was president, the first woman president of Eta Sigma Gamma. So when you sit in that chair right now, you think about your role as a professional wherever it is, but remember that you can do what we've done. We're no different than you are. We're just a little older, okay? I was 10 when I joined. But you have it in you to do it, every one of you. And don't forget that, because we're counting on you to stand on our shoulders. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I'd like the next three contestants. This is a contest. Participants to come on up to the stage here. We're trying to figure out how to demonstrate this idea of generations, because you're right. We're standing on other people's shoulders, and so we want you to build a pyramid up here. Okay. Instead, we thought about the idea of passing the torch, and so I'm going to introduce Jody and Amy, and then they're going to give some brief comments about their experiences from the prior generation, and then they're going to pass the torch. Dr. Brookins Fisher earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Health Education at Central Michigan University, her Master's of Science in Health Science from Ball State, and her PhD at the University of Utah. She's currently a professor of School of Health Sciences at Central Michigan University. She's been involved in several national and state professional organizations, including the local chapter of Eta Sigma Gamma, of which she has previously served as faculty advisor. So Jody, please come forward.
Thank you. I figured this is about as close as I'm going to get to carrying the Olympic torch. We thought about running laps with it around Alexandria, so thank you. It is my sincere honor to be here today to speak to you about my positions in Eta Sigma Gamma. I stand here with a full and happy heart. Watching that video was awesome. I had most of those people as teachers because I did go to Ball State for my master's degree, and they look the same. Eta Sigma Gamma must preserve you. I feel very, very fortunate. I grew up in Eta Sigma Gamma. I was a kid sitting in a chair, in a hotel much like this. And now, 20 years later, this is my 20th anniversary of being a Gamman. And now I'm the lead in passing the torch down to some other generations. And it's a sincere privilege to be here on the 40th anniversary to talk about that. I'm supposed to talk about being part of Eta chapter as a legacy really in Eta Sigma Gamma. And as a member since 1987, I was initiated under Lauren Bensley, and he was the one in the video in the tweed jacket and the mustache. And what he talks about is something he has been professing for all of the years that he's been involved with Eta Sigma Gamma. He is a professional's professional. And all of the qualities he talked about in Eta Sigma Gamma are ones that we emulate and why we work so hard. Because the future is in our hands. And this profession is in our hands, and so we have to tread carefully with that and carry it lightly. But he also believed it should be joyous, and you should love what you do. And you should have balance in your life with family and outside activities, and that's very, very important. When I came back to really take over his position after he retired in 1996, I was scared to death because they were already a very winning chapter, and I did not want to drop the ball. And so I, as chapter sponsor and an overachiever anyway, I made sure we did lots of things so that we would be chapter of the year again. I didn't want to let Lauren down, and I didn't want to let the students down who got sort of used to winning. We were chapter of the year, large chapter, all 5 years that I was the faculty advisor, and I'm very proud of that. But I think there's a bigger tradition than winning awards. I tried to emulate the values that Lauren instilled in me and so many others that are in this room. Traditions and values, responsibility, respect, honor, ethics. And I tried to take time with students to help them find their passion for the profession, because passion is what's going to keep this organization alive. It was one thing to get tasks accomplished and to make sure we had our paperwork in to get that Chapter of the Year award, but it was another to watch students transform into our future. Today, Ada Chapter flourishes. I think after me, the only other advisor we've had is Irene O'Boyle, who sits with us here today, and she's doing a great job in continuing that path with heart and making sure that we not only have competent health educators, we got to have those responsibilities and competencies, but we also have students that are going to contribute to society in very positive ways. The structure for the awards system has changed, and Ada doesn't always win. Ada Chapter, every award it applies for, but it always still wins something. But the important thing is that the students have learned to work with passion and create something bigger than the program itself, and that's decent young adults who make a difference. I'm very proud to be part of that legacy and to be able to pass the torch to Amy Thompson, who was my first president in 1996. Amy?
This is Dr. Thompson. She earned her BS degree in community health from Central Michigan University, her master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Toledo in health education. She was a faculty at Mississippi State University, and then she returned to Ohio in the fall to join the faculty at Kent State University in Adult Counseling, Health, and Vocational Education Department.
Thank you. Wow, it's truly amazing to be here today. I have to tell you that when I was an undergrad sitting in the same chair that you are today, I would have never imagined that I would be on a panel with Jody speaking at a national meeting. So there's a lot of firsts for me at this conference. And I have to tell you, another first is last night we took our Gammons out together, out to dinner, and I was kind of teasing her. I go, does this make you a grandmother? Because, it's like the passing of the torch, and she got a kick out of that. So, as the advisor of Row Chapter at Kent State, I'm often asked, why do you spend so much time, doing all these things with members of Eta Sigma Gamma, and what benefits does it really offer? And I have to say that the answer is best answered by my students, and I quote, Eta Sigma Gamma has helped me find my passion. It's fun. Before I joined Eta Sigma Gamma, I wanted to quit college. It lights the fire under me to be involved, and it has helped me build my character. I agree that there's certainly something special about being a Gammon. The benefits of being part of this organization began for me as a student at Central Michigan. I grew up, as Dr. Fisher did, in this organization. Eta Sigma Gamma membership is part of the social norm there. Being a member truly is a privilege, and it's helped me define the type of person and individual that I want to be. Jody became my mentor and role model. I grew up and I wanted to be as passionate and involved as she was. During this time, I realized that health education was my destiny, and being a member of Eta Sigma Gamma was the vehicle to get there. After leaving Central Michigan, I went to the University of Toledo to get my master's and PhD, and I served as their chapter president for 3 years. Then it was time to move on and get a job. And I remember someone asking me, what will you do now? What will you do now that you're not going to be a student member of Eta Sigma Gamma? And I looked at them and I said, I will always be a Gammon. And after taking my job, I went down there and took on this new faculty job. And I remember feeling like something was missing to me. What could it be? And then I realized it was Eta Sigma Gamma. And so one of the things I tried to do at my new faculty job was to start a new health organization. And I was able to get it up and going, but I was only down there for 2 years, and then it was time to take a new position at Kent State. Well, in my interview, I remember clearly one of the questions I asked. I said, if I was to come here, one of the things I would want to do is to become the advisor of Eta Sigma Gamma. I know that you have a chapter here, so I would want to kind of take charge of that and revitalize it. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really, I think that would be fabulous. And so that was my first charge as a brand new faculty member at Kent State. In our first year, we spent building, getting the word out. This is our group. We're back. We're going to be strong. The second year of our organization, our chapter won the Advocacy Activity of the Year Award, just after 2 years of coming from 0 membership, and that was quite an accomplishment for us. Well, now we're in year 3. This is my 3rd year at Kent State, and we have over 20 members, and you can see us around campus doing great things, from handing out bicycle helmets and doing education, to hosting pancake socials, to collecting data on seatbelt usage, and of course, there's always the famous tobogganing and sledding activities that we do in the wintertime. That's absolutely fun. We have created a culture now at Kent State where it is cool to be a gammon, and I love that. And, you know, I began talking about early on what ESG means to me and what it means to some of our students, but personally I want to tell you a story that really meant a lot to me. Those of you that are close to me know that I'm a runner, and one of my life goals is to run in the Boston Marathon. Well, if you know anything about the Boston Marathon, it's the oldest marathon, the only one in the country that you have to qualify for, and you have to run pretty fast to kind of be able to run in that. Well, I've ran 3 marathons, and I've tried to qualify, never made it. Well, this year I was going to run 2 weeks ago, the Columbus Marathon. And I really trained hard this year for like 6 months. I never missed a day. I ran like 60 miles a week, and 5 o'clock in the morning before I teach, I'd get up and never miss a day. And I was really focused this year on being able to accomplish this goal I'd set for myself. I didn't really talk about it. The Gammons know I run all over campus. Oh, there she is again, running, you know, waving at me. But you know what? The day came, I was ready, my whole family went down there, and I started running this race. And it was really hot that day. And I got to about mile 19, and I was starting to realize that I wasn't going to make my time. And I started to get kind of upset. And I turned this corner, and all of a sudden I look, and all along the corner are all my Gammons. They had gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning to drive down to watch me run my marathon. I had no idea. I hadn't even told them. And they had made puffy paint shirts that took them hours of ironing to put these things together with all these stains to motivate me. And when I saw them, tears came down my face. And I kept running, and I finished the race. And at the end, everybody was kind of waiting, like, is she going to cry that she didn't make this time? Is she going to be really upset? And I was so happy because I felt like such a winner that we are such a family in terms of Eta Sigma Gamma that it didn't matter. And I really believe in this organization, and I believe as Gammons we are all winners, and we are the future, and that is very powerful. And I feel very privileged to introduce to you the next generation of Eta Sigma Gamma, Colin Dean. He is our president this year, and he is absolutely on fire. He traveled here with 2 of our other Gammons to be here today. Just yesterday they were on the Hill advocating. You can find him writing grants, educating around campus, and even on a Halloween, he dressed up in a pink superhero suit and handed out condoms as Captain Condom. So he is the next generation of Eta Sigma Gamma. Thank you.
Cool. I don't know what to do with this, so I'm going to put it right here. Kind of buzzes. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone who came before me. Thank you for all the hype. I won't live up to it. My name's Colin Dean. I am not Howard Dean, so don't worry. I'm not going to scream at you. I'd also like to point out that not only as Gammons are we standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, but we're standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, these are all legendary Eta Sigma Gamma members, and it's truly a pleasure to be working aside them, because although the advisor-student relationship is, advisor-student, it's also very collaborative. We work together. We're not told what to do. There's a lot of creativity involved in this. I'd like to quote deceased Senator Paul Wellstone. He once said that the future belongs to those who are passionate and work hard. And I believe those are the 2 main character traits of Gammons. We're passionate and we work hard. We go out, we serve our community, we ask for nothing back. We're not compensated. Why? Because we have passion and we work hard and we think it's the right thing to do. This is seen through many of our actions. I'd like to call attention to Central Michigan bringing the AIDS quilt to their campus last year. I'd like to bring attention to the University of North Florida, having a canned food drive going on right now to benefit the homeless in their area. And at Kent State University, we recently did the Campus Bicycle Safety Campaign and handed out over 60 free bicycle helmets. No one enters health ed to get rich, and if you have, you are severely misguided. But let that not imply that health education is completely selfless, because I think there's no greater sensation than knowing that you've made an impact on another individual. So it doesn't matter if we're getting rich, because what truly matters is that we're making a difference in our community. And that is the most gratifying thing that I've experienced through Eta Sigma Gamma. Thank you.
We're obviously developing a team here, and so I have a few odds and ends that I'd like to present to the presenters that gave their time today to be with us. If you'd like to stay around and talk to them personally, please feel like you can do that, but we probably need to vacate this room in just a few minutes. So thank you for coming.
I'd like to invite you all to our 40th anniversary social this evening. At that social, we will pass the torch to all of you. We have a torch for everyone who comes, as well as a 40th anniversary pin. So we look forward to seeing